Professional interrogators don't look for lies. They look for stress, not the dramatic kind. You see in movies, no sweating under bright lights, no nervous breakdowns, no sudden confessions. The real signals are quieter, slower, and far more revealing. This is why agencies like the CIA and Mossad don't rely on polygraphs or tricks. They rely on criminal psychology, the predictable ways the human mind collapses under deception. Because here's the truth, most people don't understand. Humans are terrible at lying when it actually matters, and intelligence agencies know exactly why. Before we go deeper, tell me, where are you watching from, and what time is it right now? Drop it in the comments below. Love knowing how far it travels, and if you want to understand the same psychological principles used by intelligence agencies and criminal profilers, subscribe to Criminology, like this video, and turn on notifications. Awareness isn't about fear, it's about control. The first myth that needs to die is the idea that lying is a single act. It isn't. Lying is a continuous mental operation. When someone lies, their brain isn't just inventing a false statement. It's doing several things at once: suppressing the truth, constructing an alternative version of reality, maintaining internal consistency, monitoring the listener's reaction, and adjusting the story in real time. That cognitive load is heavy. Truth, on the other hand, is recalled. Lies are manufactured. Criminal psychology shows us that the human brain evolved to remember experiences, not fabricate believable fiction under pressure. When stakes rise, prison, exposure, national security, the brain's stress systems activate. Cortisol increases. Attention narrows. Memory retrieval competes with emotional regulation. This is where deception begins to leak. CIA and Mossad interrogators understand this deeply. They don't rush. They don't accuse. They don't even look for contradictions at first. Their goal is to let the liar carry the weight of their own story long enough for the mind to betray itself. One of the biggest reasons people fail at lying is overconfidence. Most liars believe the danger is in what they say. Intelligence agencies know the danger is in how the mind behaves while saying it. Criminals, spies, and manipulators often rehearse stories obsessively. They memorize time. They prepare answers. This rehearsal creates confidence, but also rigidity. Rehearsed lies are brittle. The moment a question comes from an unexpected angle, the mind has to improvise. Improvisation increases cognitive strain. Strain produces behavioral leakage, and leakage is what trained interrogators watch for. Another misconception is that intelligence agencies are hunting for tells, blinking, scratching, looking away. That's amateur psychology. Real professionals know that single behaviors are meaningless in isolation. What matters is deviation from baseline. Before meaningful questioning even begins, interrogators observe. How does the person speak when relaxed? How detailed are their answers? How do they recall neutral events? How do they handle silence? This baseline becomes the reference point. Lying is not detected by strange behavior, it's detected by change. Criminal psychology teaches that stress alters patterns before it alters words. Sentence structure shifts. Response timing changes. Emotional tone disconnects from content. The liar may not even be aware of these changes, but the interrogator is. This is why CIA and Mossad interrogations often feel calm, almost casual. Pressure is not applied overtly. It's allowed to accumulate internally. Silence is used strategically. Neutral questions are repeated in different forms. Time becomes an ally. Most people underestimate how exhausting deception is over time. A lie must be remembered. The truth remembers itself. As minutes turn into hours, and hours into days, the mental cost of maintaining a false reality increases. Small errors appear, not dramatic contradictions, but subtle a detail is softened. A timeline becomes less precise. Emotional responses flatten or become exaggerated. These aren't mistakes, they're symptoms. Another key principle intelligence agencies rely on is the difference between lived memory and constructed memory. Lived memory is sensory. It contains irregular details, sounds, textures, emotions that don't follow a clean narrative arc. Constructed memory is efficient, logical, smooth. Criminals often believe smoothness equals credibility. In reality, smoothness raises suspicion. Real experiences are messy. They include uncertainty, corrections, pauses. People telling the truth often stop mid-sentence. To clarify, they revisit details. They say, "I don't remember," and mean it. Liars hate uncertainty. Uncertainty feels dangerous because it opens gaps. So liars fill gaps with confidence. That confidence becomes a psychological fingerprint. Intelligence agencies don't challenge it directly. They let it stand, then quietly probe around it. Another reason humans fail at deception is emotional incongruence. When people tell the truth, emotion emerges naturally. When people lie, emotion is often performed. The difference is subtle but detectable over time. Fear appears too early or too late. Anger feels rehearsed. Calmness is over-controlled. The emotional timing doesn't match the narrative. The mind is acting while the body reacts, and the two rarely sync perfectly. CIA and Mossad interrogators are trained to read this dissonance, not as proof of guilt, but as pressure points. They note where stress clusters, where control tightens, where responses shorten or lengthen unnaturally. Importantly, they don't rush to conclusions. Intelligence work is probabilistic, not absolute. One signal means nothing. 10 aligned signals mean something significant. Criminal psychology emphasizes pattern accumulation over intuition. This is why lie detection is never about catching someone, it's about understanding. Probability. This approach also explains why confrontational interrogation fails. Accusations trigger defensive systems. Defensive systems activate rehearsed responses. Rehearsed responses reduce variability. And variability is where truth and deception separate. So agencies like the CIA and Mossad avoid confrontation. They create environments where the liar feels temporarily safe. Safety lowers vigilance. Lower vigilance allows natural cognitive strain to surface. Ironically, liars reveal more when they feel less threatened. This is the psychological trap at the heart of intelligence interrogation. The subject believes they're doing well. They believe control has been established. Meanwhile, the interrogator is watching the mind slowly tire under the weight of its own fabrication. And here's the most important point of all. Intelligence agencies don't detect lies by looking for deception. They detect lies by understanding how the human mind behaves when it is trying to hide reality. Now, we'll break down the exact behavioral signals CIA and Mossad interrogators monitor speech patterns, silence, emotional timing, and why most people misinterpret them completely. If lies could be detected by words alone, intelligence work would be easy. It isn't. CIA and Mossad interrogators know that language is the last place deception reveals itself. Words are chosen, behaviors are managed. But beneath that control, the human nervous system is constantly leaking information. This leakage is not dramatic. It is subtle, cumulative, and deeply psychological. The first thing intelligence officers learn is to stop listening for content and start listening for structure. Truth-tellers and liars may say similar things, but they do not say them in the same way. The rhythm of speech changes under cognitive strain. Sentences shorten or become overly complex. Pauses appear where they normally wouldn't. Responses are delayed not because the person is thinking, but because the mind is recalculating. Criminal psychology shows that when people recall lived experiences, retrieval is relatively automatic. When they lie, retrieval becomes synthetic. Each answer must be checked against the false narrative already presented. That internal cross-checking costs time, and time leaks through behavior. One of the most reliable signals interrogators monitor is response latency. Not long pauses, those are obvious and easily controlled. Instead, they look for changes in baseline timing. If someone normally answers within a second, but suddenly needs 3 or 4 seconds on certain topics, pressure has increased. Something in the cognitive system is working harder than before. Importantly, interrogators don't rush to fill that silence. Silence is one of the most powerful tools in intelligence interrogation. It creates a psychological vacuum. The human brain hates unresolved social moments. Liars, in particular, feel compelled to fill silence because silence feels like loss of control. Truth-tellers are more comfortable with silence. They assume the truth will stand on its own. Liars assume silence is dangerous. Mossad interrogators are especially known for this tactic. They allow long neutral pauses after answers. not accusatory, not judgmental, just quiet. The liar begins to add details unnecessarily. Clarifications appear, corrections emerge. The story grows, and with growth comes inconsistency. Another key area of observation is speech complexity. Under stress, liars often overcompensate. They use formal language, they add qualifiers, they sound polished. This is not confidence, it's control. Criminal psychology shows that people lying in high-stakes environments attempt to manage perception through sophistication. Truth-tellers, by contrast, speak more naturally. Their language may be imperfect. Grammar breaks, thoughts trail off. This imperfection is a marker of authenticity, not weakness. Interrogators also monitor pronoun usage. When people lie, they often distance themselves linguistically from the false act. I becomes we or disappears entirely. Passive constructions appear. Mistakes were made instead of I did it. This distancing is unconscious. The mind attempts to reduce emotional ownership of the lie. Intelligence officers don't treat this as proof, they treat it as directional information. Another critical signal is emotional congruence. Emotion in truthful memory is involuntary. It emerges naturally when certain details are recalled. In deception, emotion is often delayed, exaggerated, or oddly placed. A person may express anger too early, calmness too long, or sadness without physiological markers. CIA interrogators are trained to watch not just facial expressions, but emotional timing. When emotion arrives before context or lingers after relevance, it suggests performance rather than experience. Criminal psychology explains this clearly. Liars think about how they should feel. Truth-tellers feel first, then speak. Another powerful behavioral marker is self-soothing behavior. Under stress, the nervous system seeks regulation. People touch their face, rub their hands, adjust clothing, shift posture. Again, these behaviors mean nothing in isolation. What matters is change from baseline. If a person suddenly increases self-soothing when discussing specific topics, interrogators mark those topics as psychologically loaded. They don't confront them, they return to them later, from different angles. Temporal memory is another area where deception struggles. Truth has a natural timeline. It includes anchors, before, during, after. Lies often collapse time. Events become vague, sequencing becomes unstable. Intelligence officers test this by moving backward and forward through narratives. They might ask for the same event in reverse order, or jump ahead, then return. Truth-tellers adjust easily. Liars struggle because the story exists as a sequence, not an experience. This is where criminal psychology and intelligence, interrogation, overlap perfectly. Memory under stress reveals construction. Another critical signal is control behavior. Liars attempt to steer conversations. They answer more than asked, they redirect, they clarify preemptively. They attempt to manage the interrogator's perception rather than respond naturally. Truth-tellers don't need to manage perception. They assume facts will speak for themselves. CIA and Mossad interrogators tracked who is trying to control the interaction. Control indicates fear of exposure. Confidence does not require management. Perhaps the most misunderstood signal is eye contact. Contrary to popular belief, liars do not consistently avoid eye contact. Many do the opposite. They over-maintain it. Eye contact becomes intentional rather than natural. It feels held, not fluid. Again, this is not proof. It's a data point. Intelligence work is not about catching someone lying. It's about mapping psychological pressure points. Each behavioral leak adds weight to a probability model. Over time, patterns emerge that no single lie can hide. The brilliance of CIA and Mossad interrogation lies in restraint. They resist the urge to accuse, they allow the mind to expose itself slowly. They understand that deception collapses not through confrontation, but through fatigue by the time a lie fails. It often fails quietly now. We'll expose the strategic questioning techniques and psychological traps intelligence agencies use to collapse deception without threats, without force, and without the subject realizing what's happening. The most dangerous moment for a liar is not confrontation, it's comfort. CIA and Mossad interrogators understand something fundamental about the human mind. Deception survives pressure, but it collapses under misplaced safety. This is why intelligence agencies rarely accuse, threaten, or corner their subjects. Those tactics trigger rehearsed defenses. Rehearsed defenses protect lies instead. Intelligence interrogation is built around psychological erosion, the slow dismantling of mental control until the lie can no longer support its own weight. One of the first principles is non-accusatory questioning. Accusations polarize. They push people into survival mode. In that state, the brain retrieves scripts, not memories. Criminal psychology shows that when people feel attacked, they don't search for truth, they search for escape. CIA and Mossad interrogators avoid this trap entirely. They frame questions as neutral, curious, even supportive. The subject feels evaluated, not threatened. This preserves variability, and variability is where deception reveals itself. Another powerful technique is cognitive overload. Lying requires mental resources. Intelligence officers deliberately increase that load without appearing aggressive. They ask unexpected questions. They shift topics abruptly. They request irrelevant details. They interrupt narratives and return later. Truth tolerates. Disruption. Lies do not. When a liar is forced to multitask, to recall, construct, monitor, and adapt simultaneously, cracks form, not dramatic ones, subtle ones. The voice tightens. The pace changes. The narrative simplifies. The mind starts prioritizing survival over consistency. This is where interrogators become patient. They don't seize on errors. They log them. Another core tactic is lowering defenses intentionally. Interrogators may express understanding. They may acknowledge stress. They may even suggest benign explanations for concerning behavior. This creates psychological relief, and relief lowers vigilance. Criminal psychology demonstrates that when perceived threat decreases, cognitive control relaxes. The liar believes the danger has passed. They stop managing every detail. That's when truth and deception begin to separate visibly. Mossad interrogators are particularly skilled at this. They allow subjects to feel temporarily in control. They allow small victories. They allow confidence to grow because confidence breeds. Exposure, another advanced technique, is incremental truth exposure. Interrogators may introduce verified facts subtly, not as accusations, but as context. They watch reactions. Relief suggests alignment. Anxiety suggests conflict. Correction behavior reveals ownership. This isn't about trapping someone. It's about observing how the mind responds when reality brushes against fabrication. Criminal psychology shows that liars respond emotionally to partial truths, even when they don't respond verbally. The body reacts faster than the story can adapt. Another crucial method is time. Manipulation. Intelligence agencies understand that lies decay with time. They revisit topics after delays. They reframe old questions. They test memory stability. Truth remains stable. Lies mutate. They also exploit fatigue, not physical exhaustion, but cognitive wear. As hours pass, self-control weakens. The liar stops monitoring themselves as closely. Emotional leakage increases. The story becomes brittle. Importantly, no single moment defines detection. CIA and Mossad do not rely on breakthroughs. They rely on accumulation. Each behavioral leak adds weight. Each inconsistency sharpens probability. Eventually, the lie becomes statistically unsustainable. And here's the most revealing. Truth of all, intelligence agencies rarely need confessions. They need understanding. Once deception is mapped, decisions are made. Intelligence is extracted. Confessions are optional. This is why so many interrogations end quietly, without dramatic reveals. The lie didn't explode, it simply stopped working. Criminal psychology teaches us that deception is not defeated by force. It's defeated by self-exposure. When the mind is allowed to reveal its own strain, the truth emerges naturally. This is also why lie detection technology remains unreliable. Machines look for signals. Humans interpret patterns. Intelligence agencies trust psychology over electronics because psychology never lies. Even when people do, there is a lesson here beyond intelligence work. Manipulators, scammers, and criminals use the same psychological principles, just in reverse. They rely on pressure, speed, and confusion to override judgment. Understanding how intelligence agencies dismantle deception gives you the tools to recognize it in everyday life. Truth feels flexible. Lies feel controlled. Tolerates questions. Lies fear them. Truth survives time, decay under it. Now tell me in the comments, which intelligence technique surprised you the most and why? If this breakdown changed how you see deception, like this video, subscribe to Criminology, and turn on notifications for more deep dives into criminal psychology, interrogation, and the hidden mechanics of influence. Because lies don't fail because someone catches them, they fail because the mind can't carry them forever. And now you know how to see the weight.